2011 Ford Fiesta, and we're gonna today look at changing the front rotors. The rotors are pretty simple. All you got to do is loosen this, and there's another one on the bottom. You take those right off, which I'll show you. One, two, then this whole unit inside here will just slide right out. I have both bolts out, so now I just stuck a screwdriver right in here, and you just put a little pressure, push that hydraulic back, making this come loose. So now you can just pry that right off, and I just put it to the side, and now your brakes are free, so you should be able to slide those, this one and this one. They just slide right off. You can see there's a slot right up in here, and they just come right out. So this one is still pretty good. The back one's a little more questionable. I don't have the brakes today, I just have the rotors, so we'll change those later. Now that the brakes are out, I gotta get this housing off. So you can see back here there's two bolts holding it in. I recommend a good air wrench. I pre-loosened that one. That's why it was so easy. I did not pre-loosen the top one. So we'll see how this goes here. Easy. And it just falls, literally fell right off. So now you can see that this guy's free. Now we're gonna have to pry it off of there. This can be a bit of a tricky part. What I did was I just took a little WD-40 and sprayed it, around here, around each of these. There's nothing holding this on, but what I do, it's hard to show, is I put a piece of wood against it and I hit it with the hammer, and it breaks it. It broke it free. So this actually just slides right off. And there you go. You're ready to go. So we're gonna prepare the new one to get it back on there. Here's the new rotor. Very important with these. They coat them. They coat them. So you need not French. You need brake cleaner, and you need to spray it really well until all the grease is off. Be very generous with it. And then wipe it with a dry cloth, and it's ready to go. You don't want any grease on there or you're not going to stop. It's hard to film and do this at the same time, but I'm just going to give you a... So like I said, be very, very generous with it. We'll turn it over. You don't want any grease left on there. So again, just spray loss. All right, then I'm gonna get a cloth. We're gonna wipe that off and we'll reinstall it on the car. Old and new, so we got the new one. It's now dry to the touch. There's no residue left on it. So what I did also was I sprayed grease cleaner like all around this to just kind of take some of the rust off. Then I put a light film of just silicone spray. I just put some silicone lubricant on, and then I wiped it off because you don't want that running onto the rotor, but that will just kind of keep the moisture and the rust out. Then this one is pretty simple. you just line up the holes. Line up the holes, slide it on, and you're ready to put everything back together. Looks great. Hopefully that's going to take the vibration out of the car now. So back together we go. First thing we need to get back on is the housing for the brake pads. So you just put it in. You line up the holes. What's easy about Rotors is there's literally nothing holding it on. When you put the tire on, that's what holds it on. So I'm going to stop filming. I'm going to put my bolts back in to hold it on, and then that part is done. Top one is in. Now we're going down to the bottom one. I like to hand tighten these because what can happen is if you use an air wrench, things can go sideways on you really fast. So just a 15 millimeter socket. And you want it tight, but you don't need to do it so tight that you break something. So just good firm pressure, top and bottom. That part of the job is now done. Alright, housing is tightened on. Next, we have to put the brake pads back on. I'll do another one for changing these, but you can see this one's pretty good. Whoever did this before has a bunch of junk. I'll probably clean that off, but just to show you, these just slide right into the top and bottom. Up snugly against the thing. I'm going to do the same with the back. The back is exactly the same. In order to get this back on, a lot of times you have to depress that guy, because this part comes out this way and presses on the brakes to slow the car down, obviously. So what I do is I take something like this, I put it top and bottom here, I put it top and bottom there. Filming with one hand is not fun. Just make sure you're not catching any hoses or anything like that. And it doesn't take a ton of pressure to get that thing moving. And it just goes in. She was a little bit stubborn, but it did depress. So you can see I have both brake pads on, and if it's done right, this guy should be able to sneak over both, and it just goes right in there. So you just got to line up here and the bottom. You take your bolts. Again, I like using a wrench. Do not use an air wrench on these, because it's pretty easy to break them off, and then you're in big trouble. Then you're towing it to a shop to get fixed. So I just hand tighten both of those. I'm gonna get a wrench. We'll tighten her down. Okay, 12 meter wrench. 12 millimeter. 12 meter. That would be awesome. Just gonna tighten that guy up there. It's good. Now we do the bottom. And job complete. I am not a certified mechanic, so I take no responsibility for any damage you could cause. However, changing rotors, as long as they're not trapped rotors, which means this can come off easily, it's a very easy job to do. You will save yourself hundreds of dollars Everything's tight. We have no grease here. I can go ahead and reinstall the wheel and we are good to go. So when anybody says, are you able to change rotors on a 2011 Ford Fiesta, you can say, actually I can. And for the record, rotors are very similar across most models of vehicles. Last caveat I will say is that when you get in the car, make sure you pump the brakes to increase the pressure back onto the brake pads. Otherwise you will put it in reverse or drive and you'll go before you actually can stop. So pump the brakes. I'm not a certified mechanic, but it is a good way to save money.